Hey, thanks for stopping by. I have a question for you. If somebody ran by your shop running on dirty oil, a check engine light, and a blown head gasket, what would you tell them? You'd probably tell them they're one commute away from a breakdown. Well, a few years ago, I was that engine with the blown head gasket and the check engine light that I'd covered up with a piece of electrical tape. And I used some tiny pine tree air fresheners to cover up the smell of smoke. But eventually, the tape falls off and the pine tree air fresheners stop working. And someone in your life is starting to talk to you about the pine tree air fresheners you've just been using to cover up the smell of smoke. Stick around and I'll tell you how I became sober and how my life got better. I pull these out of customers' engines all the time. This one came out of a truck the customer swore was running fine. And sure it was. It was limping with style. Ooh, sparkly. And that's what contaminated fuel does over time. It doesn't blow the engine up all at once. It just quietly degrades the entire system until one day, nothing is working right. We call it unwinding. We call it taking the edge off. But let's use shop lingo. Alcohol is a solvent. And what do solvents do? They break things down. It thins your discipline. It ruins your sleep. And it tanks your HRV, which is basically your body's diagnostic readout. And the worst part, the morning after, you have to pay for a few hours of fun, which is no fun. I was showing up for 6 a.m. jiu-jitsu, still a little boozy from the night before, which is a special kind of self-inflicted torture. I was basically a human radiator leak, slow, sloppy, and my training partners would pretty much prefer I wasn't dripping tequila-scented sweat all over them during a butterfly sweep. Not my finest hour on the mats or in the shop. In the shop, you can't guess when something's wrong. You have to plug in the scanner and pull the codes, and the car tells you what it needs. For years, I was clearing my codes the wrong way. Long week, drink. Bad day, drink. You see where this is going. I wasn't fixing the problem, I was resetting the light. And every mechanic knows, you can clear the codes all you want, but the light's coming back. What made me check my own codes was this wearable tech. This Garmin and this Whoop. They are both great. Within 30 days of going sober, they both started showing me numbers I hadn't seen in years. My resting heart rate was down, my heart rate variability was up, and my sleep nearly doubled. And the watch went from judging me every single morning, and I mean judging like it had its own opinions and feelings, and was disappointed in my choices, to giving me green lights. I'm not gonna lie, the watch was getting a little too comfortable telling me I was stressed 24/7. I'm glad we've moved past that point in our relationship. We're in a better place now. I think we're both growing. Here's something they don't tell you about going sober. You can't just leave the system empty. In the shop, if you want to get air out of the brake line, you don't just crack the bleeder and walk away. You bleed it while pumping fresh fluid through. In other words, you displace the problem with something better. Leave it empty and you've got a different problem. When I quit drinking, I suddenly had hours back. Turns out, when you're not spending your evening at the bottom of a glass, the day is actually pretty long. So I made a choice, take up knitting or find a way to legally strangle my friends. So I chose jiu-jitsu and I picked up heavier lifting. The mats and the barbell became the replacement fluid. Every morning I gave myself no choice but to make it to the 6 a.m. class. Every evening I was too tired from training to go looking for trouble. Trading the bottle for the gi was the best part swap I have ever made. Instead of waking up wondering where my wallet is, I wake up wondering why my left pinky toe hurts and why a 19-year-old blue belt just treated me like a human pretzel. Different kind of pain, but at least this one comes with better biceps and the occasional promotion. Once the fuel system cleared out, the upgrades started stacking fast. Sleep, which is the battery. Alcohol destroys your REM. You pass out quick, sure, but you never get the deep recovery your body needs. Once I was sober, I was waking up before the alarm, which as someone who had been setting 3 alarms and snoozing every one of them since 1987, was a revolution. Body composition, which is the chassis. I stopped looking like a before picture. Hitting 190 grams of protein is a lot easier when you're not also consuming 1,500 calories of IPA. I've lost some decent weight and put on some muscle. The frame got built. Mental clarity, which is the ECU. This one surprised me the most on the mat. I started seeing the game instead of just surviving it. Jiu-jitsu is a chess match. When your processor is throttled by a hangover, you're not playing chess, you're just hoping the other guy gets tired first. Once the fog lifted, I could start thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead. Turns out beer really isn't a macronutrient. I know, I was disappointed too. The machine has finally started to run the way it's supposed to run. You want to talk about rebuilding something that's been neglected? This is my '68 Camaro. When I got it, it was rough. Sitting, ignored, it had potential, but you had to look past the years of neglect to see it. Sound familiar? When you put in the real work, not the shortcut, not the quick fix, not the clear the code and pray method, something happens. It becomes a sight to behold. I'm 57 years old. I'm chasing a black belt, and this morning a guy half my age swept me from guard twice in a row, but I got back up because that's what you do when the engine is running clean. You don't quit, you diagnose, adjust, and get back on the road, and mentally file that sweep for later. If your engine is knocking like a Jehovah's Witness and your tailpipe smells like a brewery, if you've been covering the check engine light with a piece of electrical tape and hoping nobody notices, it might be time for an overhaul. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to stop putting the wrong fuel in the tank and replace it with something worth running on. Get on the mats, get under a bar, wake up sore from something that's building you, not breaking you down. Trade the hangover for a heavy set of squats. Trust me, recovery feels a lot better when you've earned it in the gym, not on the couch with a bottle of Gatorade and regret, wondering if you said anything weird to somebody last night. And you did. We all did. I'm a mechanic. I spend my days diagnosing why machines fail. 4 years ago, the machine I was ignoring the most was the one I live in. Today I'm sober and 190 pounds, chasing a black belt and a PR on the squat rack. And the '68 Camaro behind me is objectively a sight to behold. Here's how I did the overhaul. Follow me if you want to do the same. Stay disciplined. God bless. I'll see you on the mats.